A fort, surrounded, no escape. One dog became their only hope.
They called him Sergeant, and he was about to attempt the impossible.
Montana Territory, 1877. Fort Morrison sat on the prairie like a wooden island. Square walls, guard towers, 40 soldiers inside. Captain James stood on the rampart, watching the horizon. German Shepherd at his side. Sergeant, 3 years old, black and tan coat, intelligent eyes, battle-scarred right shoulder from a previous fight. The dog sensed it before the captain saw it. Ears forward, body tense, low growl. James grabbed his spyglass, scanned the distance. His blood went cold. Riders, at least 50, maybe more. Sioux warriors, paint on their faces, weapons ready, coming fast. "Sound the alarm!" James shouted. "All men to positions! We're under attack!" The bell rang. Soldiers scrambled, loading rifles, taking positions on the walls. But James knew the truth. 50 warriors against 40 soldiers? Bad odds. Very bad odds.
The attack came at noon, arrows first, darkening the sky. Soldiers ducked behind walls, returned fire, rifles cracking, smoke filling the air. The warriors circled, testing defenses, looking for weakness. James moved along the rampart, directing fire, keeping men calm. Sergeant followed, alert, ready. The first wave lasted an hour. Then the warriors pulled back, out of rifle range. But they didn't leave. They waited, watching. James counted his ammunition. 300 rounds left, maybe less. Water was good, food for a week. But ammunition wouldn't last, not against this many. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Cooper, approached, young, nervous. "Sir, we need reinforcements. Fort Kearny is 40 miles south. If we could get word—" "We can't. They've got us surrounded." James looked at the circle of warriors. "Anyone who rides out is dead."
Night brought worse news. Private Davis reported from the North Tower. "Captain, they're building something. Looks like siege equipment." James climbed the tower, saw it clearly. Warriors constructing wooden shields, large enough to protect men advancing. They were preparing for a direct assault. Sergeant growled low, staring at the enemy camp. Fires burning, chanting carrying on the wind. James scratched the dog's ears. "I know, boy. We're in trouble." He called his officers together, 5 men, all experienced, all worried. "Gentlemen, we have 2 options. Hold out and hope relief arrives, or try to break through." "Break through?" Cooper shook his head. "That's suicide." "So is staying. We've got 3 days of ammunition, maybe 4 if we're careful. Then what?" Silence. No good answers. James looked at Sergeant. The dog sat calm, patient, trusting. An idea formed. Dangerous. Maybe impossible. But it was a chance. "What if we could get a message to Fort Kearny, alert them to our situation?" "You said anyone who rides out dies," Cooper reminded him. "I said anyone who rides. I didn't say anything about a dog." The officers stared, understanding slowly. "You want to send Sergeant?" Cooper asked. 40 miles? Through hostile territory? "Sir, that's our only option. Sergeant knows Fort Kearny. We've been stationed there. He's fast, smart, and small enough to avoid detection in darkness." James knelt beside the dog, looked into those intelligent eyes. "I'm asking the impossible, boy. I know that, but you're the only one who can make it." Sergeant's tail thumped once, like he understood, like he was ready. James spent the next hour preparing. A leather pouch, waterproofed. Inside, a message. "Fort Morrison under siege. 50 Sioux warriors need immediate relief. 40 men, low ammunition, 3 days maximum. Captain James Morrison. He attached it to Sergeant's collar, secured tight, tested the weight. The dog barely noticed. Midnight, the darkest hour. James led Sergeant to the small rear gate. Least watch side. Warriors focused on the main entrance. Lieutenant, when I give the signal, create a distraction. Fire from the north wall. Draw their attention. Yes, sir. James opened the gate, just wide enough. Looked at Sergeant one last time. Fort Kearny, you know the way. South, follow the river. Find Captain Mitchell. He'll understand. He patted the dog's head. Go, Sergeant. Run. The German shepherd slipped through, disappeared into darkness. Cooper signaled. Rifles fired from the north. Warriors shouted, rushed toward the sound. Sergeant ran south. Low, fast, silent. James watched through the spyglass until he couldn't see any more. Just darkness and hope. The slimmest thread of hope that his dog would make it, that help would come, that 40 men would survive another day. Dawn brought the assault. Warriors advanced behind their wooden shields, arrows raining. Soldiers fired back, aiming for gaps, for legs, for anything exposed. The shields reached the walls. Warriors climbed, hand-to-hand fighting, bayonets, knives, desperate combat. James fought on the rampart, revolver in one hand, saber in the other, keeping the walls clear. Private Martinez went down, arrow in his chest. Corporal Banks took a spear, fell backward. 2 men dead, 6 wounded. The warriors pulled back, regrouping, testing the defenses again. James reloaded, hand shaking, not from fear, from exhaustion. They'd been fighting for 18 hours, no sleep, little water, and no sign of relief. How much ammunition? He asked Cooper. 200 rounds, maybe less. 200 rounds against 50 warriors. James did the math. 4 rounds per soldier. Then it was bayonets and hand-to-hand. They'd last another day, maybe 2. After that, it was over. The afternoon stretched endless, heat beating down, wounded men moaning, water running low. James walked the walls, encouraging his soldiers, lying when necessary. Relief is coming. Hold on. Just hold on. But he didn't know if relief was coming. Didn't know if Sergeant had made it, or if the dog lay dead somewhere on the prairie, shot by warriors, killed by wolves, lost. Cooper approached, face grim. Sir, the men are asking about Sergeant. Did he make it? I don't know. If he didn't, then we die here, fighting like soldiers. James met his lieutenant's eyes. But I believe in that dog. He's gotten through worse. He'll make it. Cooper nodded, wanted to believe, needed to believe. They all did. Because without Sergeant, without that message reaching Fort Kearny, they were already dead, just waiting for the inevitable. The warriors knew it too. Patience on their side. Time. Numbers. They could wait. Starve the fort, then walk in and finish it. Unless one German shepherd changed everything.
Sergeant ran through the night, legs pumping, nose tracking the familiar scent. South, always south, the river, his guide, moonlight showing the way. He'd made this journey before, with James, on patrol, training runs. He knew the landmarks, the bent cottonwood, the split rock, the shallow crossing. Behind him, gunfire echoed, faint, growing fainter. His pack was fighting, his captain needed help. Sergeant understood missions, understood orders. This was the most important one. Reach Fort Kearny, find the humans there, bring them back. Warriors spotted him twice, shapes in darkness, voices shouting, arrows whistling past. Sergeant dodged, changed direction, used the terrain, gullies, rock formations, tall grass, natural cover. A rifle shot kicked up dirt beside him.
Close, too close, but he kept running, didn't stop, couldn't stop. By dawn, he'd covered 15 miles, 25 to go. His shoulder ached, the old wound, from the fight last year, defending a supply wagon from wolves. He'd won that fight, saved 3 soldiers, got scarred for it. Now the scar pulled with every stride, pain building. He ignored it. Pain didn't matter, only the mission mattered.
Midday brought new dangers. Open prairie, no cover, no shade, heat rising from the ground. Sergeant panted, tongue out, searching for water. The river had curved away, east, off his path. He needed to find it again, needed to drink. A creek bed appeared, dry, but instinct said, dig. Sergeant used his paws, digging frantically. 6 inches down, moisture. 8 inches, water, seeping in, muddy, warm, but water. He drank, not enough, never enough, but it helped. Gave him strength. He rested 10 minutes, no more. The message pressed against his collar, heavy, important. He stood, shook himself, continued south. Miles blurred together, paws bleeding, pads torn on sharp rocks. He limped now, favoring the right, but still moving, still running, because 40 men were counting on him, because James was counting on him, because that's what soldiers did. They completed their missions, no matter what. The sun began falling, orange sky, long shadows. Sergeant recognized the terrain. He was close. Fort Kearny couldn't be far, maybe 5 miles, maybe less. He pushed harder, finding reserve strength, the kind that came from loyalty, from duty, from love.
Fort Kearny appeared at sunset, wooden walls, guard towers, familiar and safe. Sergeant barked, loud, urgent, alerting the sentries. A guard spotted him. Young soldier raised his rifle, then recognized the dog. It's Sergeant from Fort Morrison. The gates opened. Sergeant limped inside, collapsed, couldn't stand anymore. His legs gave out. Mission almost complete. Captain Mitchell emerged from the command building. Tall man, hard face, gray beard. He knelt beside Sergeant, saw the blood, the exhaustion, the leather pouch. Get me that message, and water for this dog, now. A soldier brought a bucket. Sergeant drank, deep gulps, half the bucket gone. Mitchell opened the pouch, read the message. His face darkened. Fort Morrison, under siege, 3 days ago. He looked at Sergeant, at the blood on his paws, the 40 miles he'd traveled. You ran all this way, boy? Alone? Sergeant's tail thumped weakly. Yes. Mitchell stood, shouted orders. Lieutenant Bradford, assemble a relief column. 60 men, full ammunition, horses, medical supplies. We ride in 30 minutes. Men scrambled, loading supplies, saddling horses, preparing for war. Mitchell knelt again, scratched Sergeant's ears. You did good, soldier. Real good. Now rest. We'll bring your captain home.
But Sergeant didn't rest. When the column formed up, he stood, limping, bleeding, exhausted, but standing. Mitchell saw him at the gate. Sergeant, stand down. You've done enough. The dog barked, moved toward the column, insistent. You can't make it back. You're injured. Another bark. Sergeant positioned himself at the front, ready to lead, ready to guide. Mitchell shook his head, amazed. Stubborn dog. Fine, but you ride. He lifted Sergeant, placed him in front of his saddle. The dog settled, alert, pointing north, showing the way. The column rode out. 60 soldiers, fresh, armed, moving fast. Sergeant rode with Mitchell, guiding them, correcting their path when they drifted. He knew the way, had just traveled it, could travel it again, even half dead, even bleeding, because his pack needed him, his captain needed him, and Sargent never left his pack behind. That's what German shepherds did, what military dogs did. They served, they protected, they came back, always.
Fort Morrison entered its third day. Ammunition nearly gone. 15 men wounded, 3 dead. Morale breaking. Warriors pressed harder, sensing weakness. Another assault came at dawn, larger, more coordinated. They hit all 4 walls simultaneously, spreading the defenders thin. James fought on the east wall, revolver empty, using his saber. Beside him, Cooper swung a rifle like a club. No bullets left, just wood and steel and desperation. A warrior climbed over, young, painted face, knife raised. James blocked, twisted, threw him back, but more came, always more. "Fall back to the command building," James ordered. "Fighting retreat! Move!" Soldiers pulled back, dragging wounded. Warriors poured over the walls, taking the ramparts, taking the yard. The 40 remaining men crowded into the command building, barricaded the doors, windows. Last stand. James reloaded his revolver. 6 bullets. His last 6. "Gentlemen," he addressed his men, "it's been an honor." They knew what that meant. This was the end. No ammunition, no food, no water, no escape. Cooper gripped his rifle. "Sir, about Sergeant—" "I made it. I know he did." James looked at his men. Dirty, bloody, brave. "That dog never failed me, not once. He'll bring help." "When?" "Soon. Has to be soon." But James didn't know if soon was soon enough. The warriors surrounded the command building, calling for surrender. James refused, knew what surrender meant. They'd be tortured, killed slowly. Better to die fighting, to take as many as possible. He positioned his men at windows. 6 bullets each. Make 'em count. Then, hand to hand until the end. A warrior approached the door, torch in hand, setting fire. Smoke began seeping through cracks, heat building. James checked his pocket watch. 3 o'clock. 48 hours since Sergeant left. 40 miles to Fort Kearny. 40 miles back, plus time to organize a relief column. If the dog made it. If they believed his message. If they rode immediately. Still possible. Barely, but possible. The door began burning. Wood cracking, splitting. Minutes left. Maybe seconds. James raised his revolver. 5 men at the door. Ready. This was it. The final moment. Then a sound. Distant. Growing louder. Bugles. The cavalry charge. James's heart leaped. "Hold your fire! That's our relief!" The warriors heard it too, turned, saw the dust cloud. 60 soldiers, riding hard, rifles firing. The siege broke instantly, warriors scattering, running for horses. The relief column hit them like a hammer, organized, disciplined, overwhelming. Captain Mitchell led the charge, and at the front, riding with him, a German shepherd, black and tan, bloody, limping, but there. Sergeant had made it, had brought help, had saved them all. The battle lasted 20 minutes. Warriors fled, scattered across the prairie, too disorganized to regroup, too shocked by the sudden arrival. Mitchell's men secured the fort, put out fires, tended wounded. James emerged from the command building, exhausted, relieved, alive. Sergeant jumped from Mitchell's horse, limped straight to James. The captain dropped to his knees, wrapped his arms around the dog. "You did it, boy. You saved us all." Sergeant licked his face, tail wagging despite the pain, despite the exhaustion. His captain was safe. His pack was safe. Mission accomplished. Mitchell approached,
extended his hand. "Captain James, glad we made it in time." "You have no idea, sir. Another 5 minutes." "We rode hard. Your dog showed us the way. Wouldn't let us stop. Wouldn't let us rest. Pushed us the whole journey." James looked at Sargent, at the bloody paws, the torn pads, the exhaustion in his eyes. 40 miles each way, through hostile territory, injured, and he still led you back? "Not just a dog, Captain. That's a soldier, a damn fine soldier." James nodded, couldn't speak, throat tight. He just held Sargent, grateful, proud, amazed. Around them his men emerged, 37 survivors, wounded, broken, but alive. Because one German shepherd refused to quit, refused to fail, ran 80 miles to save his pack.
Recovery took weeks. Fort Morrison needed repairs, walls rebuilt, towers reinforced. Sargent healed slowly, his paws wrapped in bandages, changed daily by the fort doctor. The old shoulder wound had reopened during the run, stitched closed again. Doc Reynolds shook his head each time. 80 miles on these paws. Most dogs would have quit after 10. James sat nearby during treatments. "He's not most dogs." The story spread. Newspapers heard about it. One reporter came from the Montana Gazette, respectful. James agreed to one interview. The article ran front page. "The dog that saved Fort Morrison." Detailed, accurate. It made Sargent famous, made people understand. Dogs weren't just animals, they were soldiers.
Orders came in September. Captain James promoted to Major, reassigned to Fort Laramie, Wyoming Territory. Bigger post, more responsibility, more men to command. James read the orders twice. Pride at the promotion, sadness at leaving. This fort, these men, the place where everything happened. "What about Sargent?" James asked Mitchell, who'd stayed to oversee repairs. "What about him?" "He's attached to this fort, to these men. Can he transfer with me?" Mitchell smiled, warm, understanding. "Major, that dog isn't attached to the fort. He's attached to you. Where you go, he goes. That's how it works. That's how it's always worked." Relief flooded through James. He couldn't imagine leaving Sargent behind, couldn't imagine serving without him. They'd been partners for 3 years, through patrols, battles, the siege. That bond wasn't just duty, it was deeper. Family, unbreakable. The men threw a farewell gathering. Simple, soldiers weren't much for ceremonies, but they wanted to say goodbye properly. Cooper presented a gift, a new collar, hand-tooled leather, beautiful craftsmanship, engraved with careful detail. First Sergeant, Fort Morrison, 1877. Hero. "The men chipped in," Cooper explained, voice thick with emotion. "Wanted him to have something, to remember us by, to remember what he did here." James's throat tightened, couldn't speak for a moment. "Thank you, all of you, for everything." He fitted it on Sargent. Perfect fit. The dog sat proud, tail wagging slowly, understanding somehow, knowing this meant something important.
Fort Laramie was different. Bigger. More political. James adjusted slowly. Sargent adjusted faster. Within days, he knew everything. But James received an unusual visitor, a civilian from the Army War College. "Major James, we're developing programs for military working dogs. Your sergeant's story could help shape policy. Would you assist?" James looked at Sargent. gray appearing on his muzzle now. If his story could help other dogs save lives, all right, I'll help. The next 2 years passed quickly. James developed training protocols, selection criteria. German Shepherds became preferred. Smart, loyal, trainable. Sargent became the model. New handlers visited, learning from James. It's about partnership, trust, not just commands. By 1879, the Army had formal working dog programs, based on Sargent's example. Dogs assigned across the West, trained, valued. Sargent's legacy was growing.
Summer 1880 brought change. Sargent was slowing. 6 years old, muzzle gray, old wounds bothering him. The shoulder ached in cold weather. His gait changed, subtle limp on the right. Doc Reynolds examined him thoroughly. Arthritis in that shoulder, and his paws, running on rocks during the siege. They're damaged permanently. Pads scarred, joints worn. James's chest tightened. Can you help him? Keep him comfortable. Warm, light duty only. But James, he's earned retirement. Let him rest. What does retirement mean? Kennel? Separated from his unit? That'll kill him faster. Reynolds nodded, understanding. Then, light duty. Keep him comfortable. Sargent's duties changed. Less patrol, more training, teaching younger dogs. New handlers brought their dogs to learn, watching how he worked. James watched with pride. Sargent adapting, finding new purpose, still serving, just differently. That's what good soldiers did. They adapted, continued. Age didn't end service. It changed it. And Sargent served with dignity until his final day.
Winter 1881. Sargent passed peacefully, in his sleep, beside James's bed, where he'd slept every night for 7 years. James woke at dawn, found him still, gone. The major sat on the floor, held his dog, remembering everything. The siege, the run, the 80 impossible miles, the lives saved. They buried Sargent with full military honors, flag-draped coffin, honor guard, rifle salute. The entire garrison attended. James spoke briefly. First Sargent wasn't just a dog. He was a soldier, a hero. He saved 40 lives, but his legacy is bigger. The program he inspired, the dogs now serving, the lives they'll save, that's his monument.
The headstone read simple words. First Sergeant, 1874 to 1881, United States Army. Hero of Fort Morrison. He ran so others could live. Years later, Colonel James retired, decorated, respected. He returned to Fort Morrison once, visited the rebuilt walls, remembered that terrible siege, that impossible decision, trusting everything to one dog. It had worked, against all odds, because Sargent was extraordinary. James stood at the grave in Wyoming, snow falling. I never thanked you properly, boy. You always knew. The wind carried his words into the wilderness, where once a German shepherd ran through darkness, bleeding, exhausted, refusing to quit, saving 40 men through courage and loyalty. That story lived on, in training manuals, in Army history, in every military dog that followed. Sargent's legacy, forever. Proving that heroes come in all forms, that courage has 4 legs, that sometimes the bravest warrior runs 80 miles through hell to save his family.